I don't know if it's just me, but there's just something very menacing about hearing a little lolly voice popping up on an intercom and saying, you better get out of there, you better evacuate, because if you don't, you're gonna all die. Just, there's something so menacing about that. And in reality, it's interesting how that really worked out at the end of the episode, because Tanya as a character actually saying something like that feels so out of character for what type of character she has shown she is. Throughout the entirety of this episode, she is straight up savage, just doing some crazy shit, doing things that honestly many people that don't really know her, don't know really the inside of Tanya's mind, might be thinking she's a basket case, or just a little bit over the deep end, just because of how she was interacting with the soldiers, the boot camp, and everything. And when you see that type of voice pop up at the end of the episode, and it's like, oh, you better evacuate, nobody takes her seriously at all, that's pretty fucking scary. It really is, because when you think about that, it's funny just to hear that type of stuff from her when normally we see her in such a serious tone to where she's just complete savage. So, besides that, this episode, once again, Tanya fucking herself over, and there's just something about that that is just so entertaining to watch. So, what is this episode about? Well, it's mainly half training, and then half going up against the enemy army that's invading you, and then defeating them, and then attacking their capital. That's kind of a quick summary of the episode. So the training camp that Tanya puts everybody under, that scene is pretty funny, because it really shows, once again, if you're very competent, and you're like Tanya, sometimes you could fuck yourself over, because Tanya's boot camp was something that was just complete savage. Something that was just so rough, honestly, many would easily quit, because it was just that rough of a boot camp. But the reason why many did not quit the boot camp was because they were actually scared of what Tanya would do to them. After seeing her type of personality, after seeing what she did for 36 plus hours, just bombarding your location, then making you run from the snow and all that, and an avalanche and all this shit, they're completely terrified of her. Like, they have the fear of God put in them. They feel like, holy shit, Tanya is a psychopath, scary, you don't want to fuck with this person, because honestly, you get on her wrong side, she's gonna kill your ass. And so, that really goes to show you how terrifying Tanya is for her soldiers underneath her. If they rather go through this hellish training, stuff that can put their life on the line, they rather go through that than actually quit boot camp and deal with whatever Tanya will throw at them. That just shows you how terrifying she is. It's funny how she turned these people that probably would never have been this great into some really fucking badass soldiers. When you see these guys going in the air just shooting people down on the ground and all that, you see how they're just flying and all that, doing these maneuvers, it just shows you what type of training Tanya put them under and how harsh it really was. When Tanya said she could get soldiers into a really crazy level in a month, she was not kidding. Not a lot of people could do that, because Tanya's character is what makes it even possible. Tanya being so scary for how she looks and how, you know, you can first perceive her as a person, it makes her a very fitting character for that role. And I just love, once again, I want to express, I love Tanya's character of how she can really have that different mindset in her mind. Like, she just doesn't want to be there on the front lines, but she's forced to thanks to her commanders and how smart she is, how she comes up with all these battle plans. And after what she did in this episode, there's no way in fuck she's ever going to be in the back lines ever again. There is just no way. After what she did, after attacking from the air onto the people onto the ground, attacking, you know, the headquarters and all that, there's just no way that she is not going to be on the front lines now. She's probably going to be the major spearhead of this entire operation when it comes to this war, just because of what she demonstrated in this episode. She's way too valuable as a card on the battlefield for her just to be wasted in the back lines, because what she demonstrated in this episode, she can really do some major damage to the enemy lines. I mean, going in and just taking down those enemy soldiers on the ground, capturing headquarters, dealing with over, I think, 600,000 men, that's an impressive feat. And I do like how this episode tries to go into how countries were back in the early 1900s. I mean, you gotta go figure, before, like, you know, World War I really happened, there was a lot of countries that were obviously underdeveloped. They didn't have a lot of technology. They didn't have any, like, air at all. They couldn't send in planes or anything like that. And so, some of these countries were like that. They just couldn't. They had to stay on the ground and, you know, use cavalry, or they would have to, you know, use infantry soldiers. And some didn't even have tanks or anything like that. So, with Tanya going in like this and fighting against this army, it does make logical sense how, you know, different countries in the early 1900s would not have advanced technology. Why they wouldn't have encrypted channels or anything like that is because this is before World War I really happened, before it really broke out of control. It was crazy, and this is the first time the world has actually seen a world war, so this is when technology is starting to advance. And since Tanya already has a very good understanding of how war works in the modern era, obviously Tanya would have the advantage over these soldiers. And when you see how Tanya's in the sky just using the advantage of air, it shows how different, you know, actual technological advanced societies are compared to over the ones that are not, you know, advanced or underdeveloped, which we saw in this episode. So I feel like this episode, even though it was more like a curb stomp, Tanya just kicked the ass out of the enemy, it makes sense how war actually works and how World War I was, because countries weren't that developed. Many countries are starting to get technology, that fast development, when the war actually started, and so that's what we're seeing here. So I don't feel like every single fight in the future is probably going to be a curb stomp. I highly doubt that. I really do, because if this is anything like World War or anything like that, that'll mean as war continues on, there's going to be, you know, countries competing with each other, trying to outsmart each other. Scientists are going to come in, trying to build different weapons and stuff, trying to counter each other, and as the war continues to drag on, technology is probably going to advance. And so I don't think every single fight is going to be this simple. I mean, you're going to have the big superpowers of the world that are probably going to be powerhouses that you just do not want to fuck with, and that's probably what's going to happen. It's not going to be this easy curb stomp like Tanya did in this episode. So I'm excited to see where the story is going to go, especially with Tanya as a character. So once again, the series, Youjo Senki, the anime, it's a good anime. However, I don't think it has the best story. I do not think it has the best support characters. But, as I've already clearly said, I am continuously watching this series because of the MC. She's such a fascinating character. She's a perfect mix and blend of different personality. For instance, how her inner thoughts are and how, you know, she acts outside in public. So I love the, you know, contrast and the difference between her character when it comes to that regard. And it's just a fascinating watch, and I really enjoy that when I see, you know, just this different part of her character in each individual episode. So let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about Youjo Senki? Do you enjoy this series? Do you hate this series? Please let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. And I love you all so much. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.